So earlier today, as I record this, it is 5:28 AM in England currently, Nintendo and the Pokémon Company have put out a statement saying that they are filing for an infringement of patent rights against Pocket Pair, the creators of Palworld. If I may read the statement for you here, Nintendo Co. together with the Pokémon Company filed a patent infringement lawsuit in the Tokyo District Court against Pocket Pair on September 18th, 2024. This lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. Nintendo will continue to take necessary action against any infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect the intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. Now, the idea of the Pokémon Company looking into Palworld should not be news to most people, as back in January, the Pokémon Company put out a statement basically saying that they are investigating Palworld to see if they could address any acts that infringe upon intellectual property rights related to the Pokémon Company. Now, the Pokémon Company put out this statement on January 24th, earlier this year, and it seems to have taken them a very long time to actually go through with it. And an even longer time when you consider that the very first trailer for Palworld dropped back in 2021. A game like Palworld wouldn't just slip under the radars of Nintendo, they would have been investigating it from the moment the trailer dropped. But to only have two statements regarding to the events this year means that this has probably been quite a long time in the making. Now, let's refer to the title of this video. Unfortunately, I think Nintendo is probably going to win this one. But before we get into that, I feel I should just say that I'm not a legal professional and nothing I'm about to say should be taken as proper legal advice. I'm simply a man who has played both Pokémon and Palworld and realizes that these are two completely different products. Now, first off, to address the main miscommunication I've seen around this case, Nintendo and the Pokémon Company are not filing a copyright infringement case, they are filing a patent infringement case. So copyright exists to protect the original artistic work of someone in a tangible form, and a patent is where you have taken out a government license to exclusively use something for a set period of time. So when it comes to something like Pokémon, a patent they might have over their IP might include the way the games play, or the way the toys are designed, or something like that. So Nintendo and the Pokémon Company are suing on the grounds of patent infringement and are asking for compensation for the damage that Palworld has done. Compensation most likely means money, and damage it has done most likely also means money. And unfortunately, if we take a look at some of Palworld's gameplay, we can see quite a lot of features that overlap with modern day Pokémon. Let's take a look at the way monsters are caught in both games as an example. So we all know how to catch a Pokémon when it comes to Pokémon games. You could either throw a ball straight, and it might break out. So you could potentially damage the Pokémon first to weaken it, and then throw a ball to catch it. And unfortunately, Palworld's system of catching Pals is relatively similar. It's not a good idea to throw your sphere at the Pal outright. It is probably a much better idea to damage them, to weaken them first, and then throw your sphere and watch as it rocks back and forth in case the Pal breaks out. This is only one example of a gameplay aspect in Palworld that Nintendo and the Pokémon Company most likely hold a patent to. And all of this is without mentioning some of the actual Pal designs compared to some of the Pokémon designs. But unfortunately still, things seem to get worse for Pocket Pair as Nintendo and the Pokémon Company are filing for multiple patent infringements. Now, I'm not going to spend the rest of this video going over what I think these infringements could be, because I really don't know. But there are 100% some very similar aspects between Palworld and the Pokémon franchise as a whole. Now, to answer the question of whether Palworld is a Pokémon clone, it is absolutely not. Palworld plays relatively similar to something like Ark Survival, for example, or even Fortnite sometimes. It is definitely not a Pokémon clone, and it is definitely not a Pokémon parody. So then why do I think that Nintendo and the Pokémon Company are going to win this case? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how dissimilar certain aspects of the game are, if there are any aspects that break the patents that Nintendo and the Pokémon Company have over the way that Pokémon plays, they are absolutely going to come for you, and they are absolutely going to come for your piggy bank as well. Regardless of whether Nintendo and the Pokémon Company have actually put out a good Pokémon game in a while, this is still what they do, and this is what they enjoy doing. Now, do Pocket Pair have any chance of a defense in this case? Maybe, but it's speculative and thin, which is generally the worst kind of defense. First of all, the CEO of Pocket Pair has said that the game passed legal checks before releasing, which does account for something. And the second small defense they might have is that Nintendo actively struck down a mod which replaces certain pals with Pokémon. Now, Nintendo is no stranger to taking down mods of other games using their characters, but this is particularly interesting because this implies that they were generally fine with everything else going on in Palworld, yet they weren't fine with their models and characters being used with this gameplay, which generally, to me, says that they're fine with the gameplay, but they're just not fine with fans potentially infringing on their intellectual properties. And this is probably the biggest defense that Palworld would have, because, I mean, this is actual proof that Nintendo and the Pokémon Company previously have been fine with the game. But as I said, it's speculative and thin at best, and at worst, it could be nothing. So let's say, hypothetically, Palworld unfortunately loses this case. What will happen to it? Well, for starters, the game will most likely go down. This will either be permanent, or this will be until the game has been significantly reworked. And when it directly comes to Pocket Pair, they will have to pay compensation. And that sucks. It really does. Palworld is not a Pokemon clone. It is not even close. But unfortunately, there are a lot of things in Palworld that are very similar to a lot of things in Pokemon. Things that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo most likely hold a patent to. And I truly think that sucks because Palworld is a good game. It's good fun. It's crazy, it's really silly, but it also takes itself seriously. But legal is legal, and if Nintendo and the Pokémon Company win this case, which I think they probably will, Palworld will most likely disappear, and that is most unfortunate. And at the moment, that's all there really is to the case. A lot of people found it funny that the day the Switch 2 leaks came out, Nintendo decided to go for Palworld, but I think these things are just coincidental. In case you don't know, there have been lots of leaks for the Switch 2, courtesy of, I believe, the Chinese manufacturers. And, well, Nintendo are probably in a race now to announce the Switch 2 officially before the leakers leak everything unofficially. But anyway, I believe that's completely unrelated to Palworld. But I do think this case sucks, as I do think Palworld is a pretty fun time. However, I think Nintendo probably has a pretty good case here. If they're targeting the game overall, then I'd say their case is weaker. However, if they are specifically going after the similarities between Pokemon and Palworld, then I'd say their case is, unfortunately, pretty watertight. But who knows, the case could go either way. I mean, the world works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? And if Nintendo and the Pokémon Company only want to sue on the basis of collecting monsters, then might as well throw some other franchises in there, like the Persona franchise, for example. But let me know what you think about this case down below, if I haven't already said that. Yeah, it's very early in the morning right now, and I apologise that this is not my normal style of content. However, I care about this news quite a bit, and I'd be quite interested to see where it goes. So I thought I'd make a video on it regardless. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching, everyone, and I will see you later down the sunny road.